With the good cause that she is obviously covering there. And time now to bring you more on that. And we are going to go over to Leanne, who's in The Hague at the One Young World Summit that kicked off yesterday. So let's find out exactly what she is busy with today and who we can expect also to grace that particular stage. Leanne?
Sakina, Valen, a very, very good morning to you. And yes, indeed, welcome back to The Hague as we come to you from inside the plenary area at One Young World. And this is where it all happens. And boy, does it all happen. I tell you, yesterday had to be one of the most emotional days that I've had the privilege of sitting through. All you do is genuinely sit and listen. Sit and hang onto every single word that the speakers that take to that stage behind me have to say. We've, as you can see on the stage there now, it's a video playing of Mo Ibrahim. The actual summit hasn't started as yet. That'll start a little bit later on, and they're obviously doing a little bit of rehearsing here. But some of the stories that we were listening to yesterday had the audience, and let me tell you, myself in tears. There are youth represented from every single country. Just to give you, I've got now even a better perspective of how this actual summit actually works. So what happens is that everybody comes together, you're chosen, you come into one room, and it is giving the youth the voice. It is the youth that are absolutely exceptional. They have started whatever cause it may be in their respective country where they see injustices. And when you listen to the injustices that they talk about, it is heartbreaking. It truly is. And you realize that this world has failed the youth, and the leaders of today have failed the future generations. And every single leader, I must say, that's got up onto that stage, whether it was John Major, whether it was Gordon Brown, whether it was whatever leader that took to that podium, Bob Geldof was speaking as well. We heard Richard Branson speaking as well. Every single one of them pointing to the fact that this generation has failed the youth and they need to make a difference. In a way, it was a little bit daunting for the youth because there appears to be so much responsibility on their shoulders to take things and change the narrative of the way it is at this point in time. But to find good leaders in this day and age is very difficult. But when you want to find a good leader, I can tell you where you find them. You find them right here. Some of the women that took to this stage yesterday have to be the bravest individuals I've ever met. I mean, Sakina and Valen, I tell you, when you sit and you listen to young women that come from some of the most oppressed nations in this world that have decided to take causes and fight them to the death almost. I mean, that is pretty much so what these women are doing. I mean, there's one woman who was on that stage who was talking about the fact that she realized that hymen testing, it's something that happens where she comes from and is one of the biggest killers of women. And if they are found to have a broken hymen, they are treated like... You can imagine how they are treated, but it's just, it's devastating to hear some of the stories. Another story of a woman who thought that enough is enough. She actually decided that she was tired of being looked at the way she was as just a body and was scared. She was scared to look up when she walked in the streets. Didn't matter what she wore. People were looking at her and she felt vulnerable and she felt that, you know, she could be raped at any moment. And she thought, well, I'm sick and tired of this. And she started a clothing range. And this clothing range is called Baby Fist, and what she does is she looks up and proudly walks, and it's just saying, look at me, Habibi, which basically means look at me, baby, and that's what it's all about, just taking who you are and walking proudly. Then I think one of the most unbelievable stories I had to hear was from one of the men that took to that stage. He was a guy named Luke Hart. Now, I wasn't expecting this. In fact, our advocate Thuli Madonsela was the one that actually went and introduced this man. He got up onto the stage, and when he was speaking, this was when everyone broke down, because he was a guy that stood there. You weren't expecting what was to come out of his mouth when he does. This was on sexual abuse and also domestic abuse. He stood up and he said, on a certain day, and he gave the date, his mother and his sister were shot and killed by his father. And then his father killed himself. And he went on to talk about the fact that him and his brother had managed to go and get a job, and a job that he was hoping to take his mother and his sister out of that situation. And they earned that money 5 days before she was murdered. Now, this changed the course of his life, and he started an organization that helps anyone that is a victim of domestic abuse. I can't tell you the stories that are here and the youngsters and the individuals that have gathered here and the strength of character. This is one place where I must say you arrive one person and you leave a very, very different person. In fact, we're going to be talking to Advocate Thuli Madonsela during the program this morning, so do stay tuned for that interview. We're also going to be talking to one of the most incredible young Ghanaians. Now, he won the Politician of the Year. He's from Ghana. He got to share the stage with John Major as one of the rising politicians, and I'm quite interested to hear from him what he sees as the Africa of his dreams, and that's indeed something that we will ask him and get to the bottom of. So we're hoping to find some more wonderful delegates for you, and we're also going to be chatting to Akon a little bit later on today, and Rosario Dawson as well, who has a clothing brand, and that's also been launched together with a business partner of hers on the African continent. We'll find all of those details from her. So it's been busy, it's been incredible, and we hope to share those stories with you as we continue. So let's go back to the Johannesburg studio. I think it is now 7:30. Let's get the news headlines from Sakina.